Hey guys, it's me, Nicola and Taker today with Free Mike here. Welcome to my channel, welcome back to my channel, whichever the case may be. Hi. I like it like this. I can just sit here and you're right here. So, today we are doing chapter 3 of our Jack Harris book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Chapter 3 would be the new $1 billion crop. But first, how are you guys doing? Been a while. Trying to keep, my schedule going so so I can resurrect the channel and make it come back alive. Sometimes these light, quick, and awesome. Other times, you gotta fight with it. Much more better. Alrighty, so the new $1 billion crop. February 1938, Mechanical Engineering Magazine. Of all the things you would, of all the magazines that would have cannabis, Engineering Magazine has it. The most profitable, desirable crop that can be grown. Modern technology was about to be applied to hemp production, making it the #1 agricultural resource in America. Two of the most respected and influential journals in the nation, Popular Mechanics and the Mechanical Engineering, forecast a bright future for the American hemp. Thousands of new products creating millions of new jobs. And that would herald the end of the Great Depression. Instead, hemp was persecuted, outlawed, and forgotten at the bidding of W.R. Hearst, who branded hemp the Mexican killer weed marijuana. As early as 1901 and continuing to 1937, the U.S. Department of Agriculture repeatedly predicted that once machinery capable of harvesting, stripping, and separating the fibers from the pulp was invented or engineered, hemp would have been America's #1 farm crop. The introduction of G.W. Schlichten's decordorator in 1917 nearly fulfilled this prophecy. The prediction was reaffirmed in the popular press when Popular Mechanics published it in February 1938. Articles, $1 billion crop, the first reproduction of this article in over 50 years, was the original addition to this book. The article is reproduced here exactly as it is printed in the 1938. Because of the printing schedule and deadline, Popular Mechanics prepared this article in the spring of 1937, when cannabis, hemp fiber, paper, dynamic, and oil was still legal to grow and was, in fact, an incredibly fast-growing industry. Reports from the USDA during the 1930s and congressional testimony in 1937 showed that cultivized hemp acreage had been doubling in size in America almost every year from the time it hit the bottom acreage. 1930, when 1,000 acres were planted in the U.S., to 1937, when 14,000 acres were cultivated, with plans to continue to double that acreage annually in foreseeable future. As you will see in these articles, the new mechanized cannabis hemp industry was in its infancy, but well on its way to making cannabis America's agricultural crop. And in the light of subsequent developments, biomass, energy, technology, building materials, and so forth, we now know that hemp is the world's most important ecological resource and therefore potentially our planet's single largest industry. The Popular Mechanics article was the very first time in American history that the term $1 billion was ever applied to any U.S. history or agricultural crop, equivalent to 40 to 80 billion today, or as of the date of this book, which would have been, to 1998. So, just to kind of give you a little more perspective, experts say, conservatively estimate that once restored in America, hemp industries will generate over $500 billion to $1 trillion per year, and will save the planet and civilization from fossil fuels and their derivatives, and from deforestation and the greenhouse effect. If Harry Anslinger, DuPont, Hearst, and their paid for, politicians, they had not outlawed hemp under the pretext of marijuana, and suppressed hemp knowledge from our schools, researchers, and even scientists, and the glowing predictions in these articles would have already come true by now, and the more benefits than anyone could have envisioned. As new technologies and uses continue to develop, as one continued to aptly put, as one colleague said to okay, I can do this. As one colleague also aptly put it, these articles were the last honest spoken word of hemp's behalf for over 50 years. So here is the articles. Yes, we read them. So, American farmers were promised a new cash crop with an annual value of several $100 million, all because of a machine has been invented which solves the problem more than 6,000 years old. It is hemp crop that will not compete with other American products. Instead, it will displace imports of raw material and manufactured products produced by unpaid coolie and peasant labor, and it will provide thousands of jobs for American workers throughout the land. The machine, which makes it possible, is designed for removing the fiber-bearing cortex from the rest of the stalk, making hemp fiber available for use without prohibited amounts of human labor. Hemp is the standard fiber of the world. It has great tensile strength and durability. It is used to produce more than 5,000 textile products, ranging from rope to fine laces and woody herbs. Oh, yeah, that's right. And woody herbs remaining after the fiber has been removed contain more than 77% cellulose, and that can be used to produce more than 25,000 products, ranging from dynamite to cellophane. Mechanics, now in service in Texas, Illinois, Minnesota, and other states, are producing fiber at a manufacturing cost of half a cent a pound, and are finding a profitable market for the rest of the stock. Machine operators are making a good profit in competition with coolie products, foreign fibers, while paying farmers $15 a ton for hemp as it comes in from the field. $1 billion crop. From the farmer's point of view, hemp is easy crop to grow and will yield 3 to 6 tons per acre on any land that is grown. Any land is grown, corn, wheat, or oats. It has short growing seasons so that it can be planted after other crops are in. It can be grown in any state in the Union. The long roots penetrate and break the soil to leave it in perfect condition for the next year's crops. The dense shock will leave 8 to 12 feet above the ground, chokes out weeds. 2 successive crops are enough to reclaim land that has been abandoned because of Canadian thistles or quack grass. I've never heard of quack grass before. Under old methods, hemp was cut and allowed to lie in the fields for weeks until it redded enough so fibers could be pulled off by hand. Redding is simply rotting as the result of due rain and bacterial action. Machines were developed to separate the fibers mechanically after resetting was complete, but the cost was too high. The loss of fiber great and the quality of fiber comparatively low. With the new machine known as the decorticator, hemp is cut with a slightly modified grain binder. It is delivered to the machine where an automatic chain conveyor feeds it into the breaking arm at a rate of 2 to 3 tons per hour. The curds are broken into fine pieces which drop into a hopper, from where they are delivered by blower to a baler or to truck for freight car or loose shipment. The fiber comes from the other end of the machine, ready and baling. From this point on, almost everything can happen. The raw fiber can be used to produce strong twine or rope woven into burlap, used for carpet, wrap, or linoleum. Backing it may be bleached and refined with resinous byproducts of a high commercial value. It can in fact be used to replace the foreign fibers which now flood our markets. Thousands of tons of hemp are used every year by one large power company for manufacture of dynamite and TNT. A large paper company which has been paying more than $1 million a year in duties on foreign-made cigarette papers now is manufacturing these papers from American hemp grown in Minnesota. A new factory in Illinois is producing fine bond paper from hemp. The natural materials in hemp make it economical source of pulp for any grade of paper manufactured, and the high percentage of alpha cellulose promise of unlimited supply of raw material for the thousands of cellulose products our chemists have developed. It is generally believed that all linen is produced from flax. Actually, the majority comes from hemp. Authorities estimate that more than half of our imported linen fabrics are manufactured from hemp fiber. Another misconception is that burlap is made of hemp. Actually, it is the source. Its source is usually jute, J-U-T-E. And practically all of the burlap we use woven into laborers in India who receive only 4 cents a day. Binder twine is usually made from sisal, which comes from Yucatan in East Africa. All these products now imported can be produced from homegrown hemp. Fishnets, bowstrings, canvases, strong rope, overalls, damask, tablecloths, fine linens, garments, towels, bed linens, and thousands of other everyday items can be grown on American farms. Our imports of foreign fabrics and fibers average about $200 billion a year. In raw fibers alone, we import over 50 million in the first 6 months of 1937. All of this income can be made available for Americans. The paper industry offers even greater possibilities. As the industry, it amounts to over $1 trillion a year and of 80% imported, but hemp will produce every grade of paper. The government figures estimates at about 10,000 acres developed in hemp will produce as much paper as 40 acres of the average pulp land, so out of your trees and whatnot. One obstacle in the onward march of hemp is the reluctance of farmers to try crops. The problem is complicated by the need for proper equipment and a reasonable distance from the farm. The machine cannot be operated profitably unless there is enough acreage within driving range, and farmers cannot find the profitable markets unless there is a machine to handle the crop. Another obstacle is that the blossom of the female hemp plant contains marijuana, a narcotic, and it is possible to grow hemp without producing the blossom. Federal regulations now being drawn up require registration of hemp growers, and tentative proposals for preventing narcotic production are rarely stringent. However, the connection of hemp as a crop and marijuana seems to be exaggerated. The drug is usually produced from wild hemp or local weed, which can be found on vacant lots and along the railroad tracks in every state. If federal regulations can be found. Oh no, sorry about that. Federal regulations can be drawn to protect the public without preventing the legitimate culture of hemp. This is not new crop, or it is a new crop and can immeasurably to American agriculture and industry. Popular mechanics can furnish the name and address of the marketer or dealer in any obstacle described in its pages. If you wish this information, write it to the Bureau of Information, enclosed a stamped self-addressed envelope. Okay. Most profitable and desirable crop that can be grown. Flax and hemp. From the Seed to the Loom was published in February of 1938, issue of Mechanical Engineering magazine. It was originally presented at the Agricultural Processing Meeting of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers in New Brunswick, New Jersey, of February 26 of 1937, by the Process Industries Division. Flax and hemp. From seed to loom. This country's imports practically all of its fibers except cotton. The Whitney gin, combined with improved spinning methods, enabled the country to produce cotton goods so far below the cost of linen that linen manufacturers practically ceased in the United States. We cannot produce our fibers at a less cost than can other farmers. We cannot produce our fibers at a less cost than can other farmers of the world. Aside from higher costs of labor, we do not get as large production. For instance, Yugoslavia, which has the greatest fiber production per acre in Europe, recently had a yield of 883 pounds. Comparable figures for other countries are Argentina had 749 pounds, Egypt had 616 pounds, India 393 pounds, and United States 383 pounds. To meet the world's competition profitability, we must improve our methods all the way from the field to the loom. Flax is still pulled up by the roots, redded in a pond, dried in the sun, broken until the fibers separate from the wood, and then spun into finally bleached with, and spun. Finally, it's bleached with lye from wood ashes, pot ash from burned seaweed or lime. Improvements in tilling, planting, and harvesting mechanisms have materially helped the large farmers and to a certain degree the smaller ones, but the processes from the crop to the yard are crude, wasteful, land injurious. Hemp, the strongest of the vegetable fibers, gives the greatest production per acre and requires the least attention. It not only requires no weeding, but also kills off the weeds and the leaves in the soil in the splendid condition for the following crops. This is irrespective of its own mandatory value, makes it desirable crop to grow. In the climate and cultivation, its requisites are similar to flax, and like flax should be harvested before it's too ripe. The best time is when the lower leaves of the stalk wither and the flowers start to shed their pollen. Like flax, the fibers run out where leaf steams are on the stalk and are made up of laminated fibers that are held together by pectose gums, PECTOSE. When chemically treated like flax, hemp yields a beautiful fiber so closely resembled to flax that a high-powered microscope is needed to tell the difference, and only then, because in hemp some of the ends are split. Wetting a few strands of fiber and then holding them suspended will definitely intensify the two, because upon drying, flax will be found to turn to the right or clockwise, and hemp turn to the left or counterclockwise. That's interesting. I did not know that. Before World War I, Russia produced 400,000 tons of hemp, all of which were still hand-broken, hand-scrunched. Now they can produce half that quantity and use most of themselves. Let's try that again. Russia produced 400,000 tons of hemp, all of which is still hand-broken and hand-scrunched. They now produce half the quantity and use most of it themselves, as also does Italy, from whom we had large imports. This country, hemp was planted 1 BU per acre. I don't know what that is. It yields about 3 tons of dry straw per acre, from 10 to 20%. Of this is fiber, and 80 to 85% is woody material. The rapidly growing market for cellulose and wood flour for plastics gives good reason to believe that here too, wasted material, hitherto, wasted material may prove sufficiently profitable to pay for the crop, leaving the cost of the fibers sufficiently low to compete with 500,000 tons of hard fiber now imported annually. Hemp being from 2 to 3 times as strong as any hard fibers, much less weight is required to give the same yieldage. For instance, sisal binder twine of 40-pound tensile strength runs 450 feet to the pound. A better twine made of hemp could run 1,280 feet to the pound. Hemp is not subject to many kinds of deterioration as are the tropical fibers, and none of them last as long in either fresh or salt water. While the theory in the past has been that straw should be cut when the pollen starts to fly, some of the best fibers handed by Minnesota's hemp people were heavy with seeds. This point should be proven as soon as possible by planting a few acres and then harvesting the first quarter when the pollen is flying, the second and third week or 10 days apart, and the last when the seed is fully matured. These 4 lots should be kept separate and scrunched and processed separately to detect any differences in the quality and quantity of the fiber and seed. Several types of machines are available in this country for harvesting hemp. One of these was brought out several years ago by the International Harvester Company. Recently, growers of hemp in the Middle West have rebuilt regular grain binders for this work. This rebuilding is not particularly expensive, and the machines are reported to give satisfactory service. Degumming of hemp is constant to the treatment given to flax. The shards probably offer slightly more resistance to digestion. On the other hand, they break down rapidly upon completion of the digestion process, and excellent fibers can therefore be obtained from hemp also. Hemp, when treated by known chemicals processed, can be spun on cotton wool and worse machinery, and has as much absorbance and wearing quality as linen. Several types of machines are stretching the hemp stalks were also on the market. Scrunches mills formerly operating in Illinois and Wisconsin used the system that consisted of a set of 8 pairs of fluid rollers through which the drawed straw was passed through to break up the woody portions. From there, the fiber was adhering shards, or herds as they are called, was transferred by an operator to an endless chain conveyor. This carries the fiber past 2 revolving single drums in tandem. All have beating blades on their periphery, which beat off most of the herds as well as the fibers and do not run full length of the stalks. The proportion of line fiber is 50% each. Tow or short tangled fibers then goes into a vibrator cleaner that shakes out some of the herds. In Minnesota and Illinois, another type has been tried out. The machine consists of a feeding table upon which the stalks are placed horizontally. A conveyor chains which carries the stalks along until they are grasped by a clamping chain, then grips them and carries them through half of the machine. A pair of intermeshing lawnmower-type beaters are placed at a 45-degree angle in the feeding chain and break the hemp stalks over the sharp edge of the steel plate. The objects being, it's right on the stupid thing here. On the other side and slightly beyond the first set of lawnmower beaters is another set which is placed at a 90-degree angle from the first pair and whips out the herds. The first clamping chain transfers the stalks to other scutch the fiber that is under the clamp at the beginning. Unfortunately, this type of scruncher makes it even more tow than the so-called Wisconsin type. This tow is difficult to reclaim because herds, are broken into long slivers that tenaciously, adhere to the fiber. Another type passes the stalks through the series of graduated fluted rollers. This breaks up the woody portion into the herds about 3/4 inch long. The fiber then passes through a series of reciprocating slotted plates working down between solitary slotted plates. Adhering herds are removed from fiber, which continues on a conveyor to the baling press. Because no beating of the fiber against the grain occurs, this type of cruncher makes only line fiber. This is then produced by the same methods as those with fur flax. Print and lacquer manufacturers are interested in hemp seed oil, which is a good drying agent. When markets have been developed for the products now being wasted, seed and herds, hemp will prove both for the farmer and the public the most profitable and desirable crop that can be grown, and one that can make Americans' mills independently of importations. Recent floods and dust storms have given warnings against the destruction of timber, possibly the hereto waste products of flax, and hemp may yet meet a good part of the need, especially in the plastics field, which is growing by leaps and bounds. So, and then they have this many uses of hemp. The world's most valuable and versatile natural resource, stocks for fabric, fuel, paper, and commercial use. Hemp is dried and broken down into two parts, thread-like fibers and bits of hurd, or pulp, which they produce. Each of these products has its own distinct applications. The long bark fiber, clean and spun into threads and yards for rope or knitting or wool, into a variety of double high quality textiles for clothing, canvases, fabrics of many types and textures. The inner core that remains is called the hemp herds, the cellulose for the tree-free, dioxin-free paper, non-toxic paints and sealants, industrial fabrications materials, construction materials, hemicellulose for plastic, and much more. Hemp is the best sustainable source of the plant pulp for biomass fuel to make charcoal gas, methane, gasoline, or even produce electricity. Seeds for food and oil. Hemp seeds produce oil for cooking, lubrication, fuel, etc. The seed is a cholesterol-lowering source of full protein. Leaves and flowers are also edible. Foliage for medicine, food, and relaxation. Cannabis has important medical value for easing pain, relieving stress, and treating illnesses, from glaucoma to cancer to nausea to AIDS and beyond. Hemp flowers and leaves are smoked or eaten for many therapeutic, religious, and relaxable purposes. Rooted in nature, even the hemp roots play an important role. They anchor and aerate the soil to control erosion and mudslides. Hemp can save family farms, create jobs, reduce acid rain and chemical pollution, and reverse the greenhouse effect. I will remember to add the pictures today. And then back to the Bulletin 404, as we talked about yesterday. When the USDA published Bulletin 404 in 1916, it used hemp pulp paper as opposed to hemp fiber paper for the first time, to demonstrate the outstanding qualities of hemp herds for pulp rather than tree pulp. Not only would this reduce the cutting of the trees, it would also reduce the need for sulfuric acid compounds used to break down the tree pulp in making of paper. Cool. And then Monday we will have chapter 4. So that is chapter 3 for you guys, and the air conditioner turned on. I want to try some. See how it is? Oh, wait a minute, we will take her tot. Oh, I need a ticker tot. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about what we've read so far. Do you think that hemp can be used this way and work? Could you imagine putting hemp fuel in your car? That could actually all happen, and it's insane to me. But yeah, we could be, powering up our cars with hemp. But that is it for today. Mad love as always. You not gonna say hi? Hey. You gonna say bye? Hey.